Hello there, I'm Sabrina Zainal and you are watching Nightline, news making the headlines. Unity government resolves more MA63 related matters in a year, says Datuk Sri Anwar. Also, autistic 6-year-old Zainal was murdered, say cops. Good morning. We begin with this story. Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim has emphasized that in just a year, the Unity government has successfully resolved more issues related to the Malaysia Agreement 1963, MA63, compared to previous governments. The Prime Minister said that various steps have been taken under his leadership and by the federal government to expedite the implementation of MA63, including directing Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Sri Fadillah Yusof to chair meetings relating to the matter.
Saya nak jelaskan kerana ada tokoh-tokoh politik Sabah yang gunakan cerita ini untuk menarik minat orang Sabah. Gunakan sentimen. Kalau ada fakta, saya tidak ada masalah. Saya juga pengkritik kerajaan terkenal dulu. Jadi kalau orang kritik, saya tidak ada masalah. Tetapi kalau dia putar balik kenyataan, memasukkan fakta, saya terpaksa jawab.
Anwar, who is also the finance minister, added that for Sabah alone, many issues within the MA63 have been successfully resolved, and this includes the transfer of regulatory power over the electricity supply and the power to approve any development project worth 50 million ringgit or less to the state government. He also pointed out that Sabah will get 6.84 billion ringgit in allocations for development projects under the 2024 budget, compared to just 1.4 billion ringgit for Pulau Pinang. He also said that Sabah required a much higher allocation as the state was plagued by various problems, including those connected with its roads, schools and electricity and water supply.
And in line with the Unity government's approach of providing assistance to the rakyat, regardless of their background, religion and race, Putrajaya will continue to focus on resolving issues affecting the people next year. All that to give the people a more comfortable life, adding that the Madani government's assistance will include poverty, dilapidated schools and civil servants' salaries.
Dan alhamdulillah, sampai bulan Disember, kita hampir selesaikan masalah ini. Yang miskin masih ramai. Yang saya maksudkan miskin itu, yang makan dia ada masalah. Yang bayi untuk anak, uniform anak-anak ke sekolah, kita selesaikan. Kita selesaikan kerana berpakat bersama kementerian, pegawai di semua peringkat, kerajaan negeri, hinggalah di pejabat daerah dan di mukim.
Anwar said this when launching the National Level 2023 Hawkers and Petty Traders Day in Penampang on Thursday. He said apart from focusing on raising the salaries of civil servants next year, the government would also implement the progressive wage scheme to push private companies to increase the salaries of their workers. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah said the responsible parties need to immediately overcome the traffic congestion throughout the country, especially in the big cities. He said the study of new methods to handle related issues also needs to be carried out.
Saya harap banyakkan lagi jalan-jalan penyuraian trafik pencungan. Saya perhatikan ataupun satu kebimbangan bagi kita semua iaitu kesesakan trafik di Kuantan ini begitu ketara sekali. Dan bukan sahaja di Kuantan atau malah di bandar-bandar seluruh negara pada hal. Dan saya harap pihak wajib khususnya Kementerian transport dapat mengkaji kaedah-kaedah baru macam mana cara kita nak mengurangkan kesesakan.
The king was speaking at the officiating ceremony of the Sultan Ahmad Shah Administration Center in Kota Sas, Kuantan. Al-Sultan Abdullah said he wants more traffic diversion roads to be built as one way to overcome congestion. Construction work on the administration center, mooted by the king, started in early 2018 to replace the existing administration center, Wisma Sri Pahang. Al-Sultan Abdullah also announced that the President of the United Arab Emirates, UAE, Sheikh Mohammed Zayed Al Nahyan, has agreed to sponsor the construction of a new mosque in Kota Sas. The post-mortem found injuries to the Zain Ryan Abdul Matin's neck and body. With that, Selangor police have reclassified the 6-year-old autistic boy's death as murder. The state's police chief, Datuk Hussein Omar Khan, said Zain's body was discovered near a river just 100 meters from his apartment in Damansara Damai in Damansara at 10 p.m. on Wednesday. He had been missing since Tuesday. Zain Ryan was last seen entering the jungle area near the apartments. He was laid to rest at the Section 9 Muslim Cemetery in Kota Damansara on Thursday evening. It was reported that the autistic child, who is nonverbal, runs very fast and has entered other people's homes before. But so far he has never disappeared because wherever he goes, he is with his mother or father. And if he wanted to do anything, he would always ask his parents' permission. Meanwhile, police believe that 6-year-old autistic boy Zain Ryan Abdul Matin was killed elsewhere before his body was dumped along the banks of a stream in Damansara Damai, Petaling Jaya. Bukit Aman Criminal Investigation Department CID Director Datuk Sri Muhammad Suhaili Muhammad Zain said this was based on the fact that the authorities, with the help of the local community, had canvassed the area spanning 300 meters over 2 days without finding the body.
So, mengambil daripada situ, kita boleh merumuskan bahawa mangsa tidak mati di tempat kejadian. Mangsa mungkin mati di tempat lain, namun diletakkan di situ.
Speaking at a press conference on Thursday night, Muhammad Suhaili said what authorities had suspected earlier was verified by the outcome of the post-mortem examination report. He also said that the suspect believed to be involved in the murder was familiar with the area where Zain's body was dumped. Muhammad Suhaili also said the cause of death was not due to drowning and could likely be strangulation. And there were also several defensive wounds. The child's body was only found on the second night of the search. It was also believed that the boy had been dead for around 48 hours before the body was discovered. Police are currently tracking down the suspect linked to the child's death. Meanwhile, Zain Ryan's mother, Ismanira Abdul Manaf, 28, who has been waiting at the forensic department of the Sungai Buloh Hospital since morning, finds it hard to accept the situation after discovering the results of the autopsy.
Saya minta pun menyiasat lebih lanjut lagi. Dan saya nak kata memang tak ada tu, memang tak ada. Memang saya tak nak terima kan. Saya tak boleh tidur malam tadi. Sampai sekarang pun saya masih rasa sedih aja. Saya tak sangka berakhir macam ni kan.
Ismanira thanked everyone who prayed for Zain Ryan and also the police, the fire and rescue department and the media who were involved in the search and rescue efforts. In other news, Communications and Digital Minister Fahmi Fadzil said he will meet with social media operator Meta next week regarding the issue of scammers taking over WhatsApp accounts. He said new tactics are emerging within the industry where takeovers of accounts that were previously seen in other messaging applications are now spreading to WhatsApp.
Ini satu trend yang sedikit membimbangkan kerana sebelum ini takeover account aplikasi seperti Telegram kita lihat berlaku, tapi sekarang telah merebak ke WhatsApp pula. Saya ada secara peribadi menerima aduan dari beberapa individu tentang bagaimana akaun WhatsApp mereka telah dicuri oleh pihak yang tidak bertanggungjawab.
Fahmi said he will arrange a meeting with representatives from Meta, which handles WhatsApp, to understand the current security aspects that might be insufficient and susceptible to exploitation by criminals. He added that Cybersecurity Malaysia had also issued a warning about the danger of criminals taking over WhatsApp accounts. The agency will also intensify programs to raise public awareness about cybersecurity issues and preventive measures to prevent the people from falling victim to online scams. Systematic financial fraud and online scams have the potential to cause significant financial losses to the nation. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Sri Fadillah Yusof highlighted that these illicit activities led to losses amounting to 1.13 billion ringgit between January and November this year, representing a substantial 46% surge compared to the previous year. Based on statistics from Bukit Aman's Commercial Crime Investigation Department, JSJK, during the same period, online crime cases increased by 37%, totaling 32,366 cases, compared to 23,608 cases in 2022. In light of this, Fadillah reminded the public not to fall for misleading social media advertisements that could lead to scams, especially in the digital age. This as technological progress and societal changes have made it easier for scammers to exploit and manipulate people for financial gain.
Justru langkah-langkah proaktif bagi melindungi maklumat pribadi dan data sensitif negara perlu diutamakan bagi memastikan integriti sistem digital dan keselamatan negara kekal utuh. Selain itu, jalinan kerjasama antara pelbagai entiti perlu dipupuk di antara pihak kerajaan, organisasi swasta, sektor perniagaan dan juga individu khusus.
He said this during his speech at the closing ceremony of the Federal Territory Level 2023 National Anti-Scam Roadshow in Putrajaya on Thursday. Fadillah also pointed out that most financial criminals no longer operate in isolation and instead have management structures and operate as an organization. As such, he said preventive measures must be implemented to tackle cybercrime more effectively and inclusively. Meanwhile, Fadillah said Malaysia is expected to save up to 7 billion ringgit by 2030 by using biomass pellets as a national energy source. He said the use of biomass pellets produced from recycled organic waste can reduce dependence on imported coal.
Whether we have enough feedstock ataupun tidak. Kalau semua orang dah bubut, nak buat baja daripada situ, nak buat makanan haiwan daripada situ, nak buat tenaga dari situ, harga akan naik. Takut tak cukup. Lama-lama tak cukup, orang akan tebang pokok. Curi pokok nak untuk produce. So we do not want that to happen. So that's why di bawah kementerian kita, apa yang kita katakan, buat ladang hutan.
The government also launched the National Biomass Action Plan 2023 to 2030, which is expected to increase investments in the biomass industry to 3 billion ringgit by 2030, creating over 3,000 job opportunities. The action plan also aims to establish biomass hubs in 20 locations, including Kuantan, Pahang and Guamusang, Kelantan. Seychelles declares state of emergency after flood and explosion. News from the foreign front when we return. We're back with the foreign front. As the Zionist regime's war on the besieged Gaza Strip entered its third month on Thursday, Zionist forces continue to press their offensive across the territory as forces attempt to take the heart of southern Gaza's main city. Vast areas of the besieged territory have been reduced to a rubble-strewn wasteland of bombed-out or bullet-scarred buildings as the regime, backed by air power, tanks and armored bulldozers, were fighting Hamas in Khan Yunis, as well as in Gaza City and the nearby Jabalia district in the north. According to Gaza's health ministry, Zionist forces, tanks, armored personnel, carriers and bulldozers rolled into Khan Yunis, forcing already displaced civilians to flee again. However, humanitarian organizations have warned the spread of the war into the south of the Gaza Strip will leave civilians who fled the north, much of which is now destroyed, with nowhere to go. At least 17,177 Palestinians have been killed since the beginning of the Zionist rampage. In the meantime, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is under intense scrutiny for his response to the October 7th Hamas infiltration, with critics alleging a lack of strategic planning beyond maintaining political power. Political science expert Professor Uriel Abulov from the University of Tel Aviv has pointed to Netanyahu's divide and rule strategy as a contributing factor to the October 7th events.
According to Abulov, Netanyahu has no strategy for the war and beyond except but to remain in power. He contends that unless Netanyahu takes significant steps to advance peace, he risks being remembered as one of the worst leaders in Israel and potentially in Jewish history.
Israel has paid a very, very dear price for that on October 7th. I don't think that any other achievement by Netanyahu, and there have been a couple, will rise up to that. Everything pales in comparison. So if Netanyahu doesn't make any remarkable move that he is positioned to make to further peace, I think that he will be remembered as the worst leader of Israel and possibly of the Jewish people.
Netanyahu, popularly known as Bibi, is facing additional criticism as he stands to benefit politically from the ongoing conflict. The war may potentially delay his 3.5-year corruption trial and defer a state inquiry into lapses in Israel's security under his leadership. Residents on the streets of Jerusalem, when met, said the moment marked the end of Netanyahu's career, with some calling for his immediate resignation and others wanting his tenure to finish after the war.
Denmark's parliament passed a bill on Thursday that makes it illegal to burn copies of the Quran in public places after protests in Muslim nations over the desecration of Islam's holy book raised Danish security concerns. The bill was passed with 94 votes in favor by the Danish parliament, while 77 votes were cast against the legislation. Breaking the new law would be punishable by fines or up to 2 years in prison. Sweden, too, is considering ways to legally limit Quran desecrations, but is taking a different approach than Denmark. It is looking into whether police should factor in national security when deciding on applications for public protests. Moving on, Seychelles President Wavel Ramkalawan declared a state of emergency on Thursday after a blast at an explosives depot and heavy rains killed 3 people. According to a statement from the president's office, the blast, which occurred around 2 p.m. local time, shook the main island of Mahé, ripping through the zone and flattening commercial buildings as well as nearby housing. It added that all schools were to be closed, with only essential services and persons allowed free movement, as everyone is being asked to stay at home. The international airport was also damaged, despite being 4 kilometers away, while schools were shut and hospitals closed to all but emergency cases. Meanwhile, exceptionally heavy rain overnight has caused severe flooding and landslides, adding to pressure on the island's response teams. after a shock last-minute win over Bayern Munich. Saarbrücken got another Bundesliga scalp on Wednesday when they defeated Frankfurt 2-0 in the DFB Pokal round of 16. Saarbrücken thought they had opened the scoring in the middle of the first half when Kai Brunker headed home from the corner, but the goal did not stand the VAR check. Brunker scored again in the middle of the second half after a brilliant free kick from goalkeeper Trim Schreiberand, and this time the goal was allowed. Brunker then set up Luca Kerber, who secured the 2-0 win. In another match, Bayer Leverkusen eased into the quarterfinals after beating Bundesliga 2 side Paderborn 3-1 at the Bay Arena. First half goals from in-form Victor Boniface and Ezequiel Palacios put Xabi Alonso's side in control. Sebastian Klaas pulled one back for Paderborn with 7 minutes left, only for Patrick Schick to ensure his side made it to the last 8 with a late third goal. Leverkusen sit top of the Bundesliga after an unbeaten start to the domestic season. After this short break, Cambodian woman and son plead not guilty over viral video. For staying with us. A 47-year-old social media influencer who stirred controversy for accusing the Malays of being lazy in a viral video last month pleaded not guilty at the Ayer Gross Sessions Court for a charge of inciting the community. Businesswoman Maria Yaakob was initially hesitant when she was asked by a court translator if she understood the charge read to her in Bahasa Malaysia in front of Ayer Gross Sessions Court Judge Muhammad Sabri Ismail. After getting some help from her lawyer, Kamal Hisham Jafar, Maria nodded, indicating she understood the charge and said, "Plead not guilty." The charge said that the posting uploaded at about 6 p.m. on November 16th and footage, which was displayed at a house in Bukit Piatu, Kampung Musai, was intended to incite the Malays. The offence is under the Penal Code, which carries a jail term of up to 2 years, or a fine, or both upon conviction. Maria's son, Izwan Hafsham Muhammad Hisham, 22, who is Maria Holding Director, pleaded not guilty in the same court for deliberately using the TikTok application at the same address to initiate a video communications featuring his mother uttering the same statement between November 14th and 16th. He was charged under the Communications and Multimedia Act 1998 and faces a maximum 50,000 ringgit fine or up to 2 years in jail or both, and shall also be liable to a further fine of 1,000 ringgit for every day during which the offence is continued after conviction. The judge set bail at 15,000 ringgit for Maria and 10,000 ringgit for Ezwan and ordered their passports to be withheld. The court set January 12th for submission of documents and re-mention of the case. A former information technology employee was sentenced to 16 years in prison by the Shah Alam High Court on Thursday for causing the death of bank manager Syed Muhammad Daniel Syed Shakir at the Kuala Lumpur Seremban bound North-South Expressway in a road rage incident 4 years ago. Judge Julia Ibrahim ordered the sentence on Yu Wei Liang, 45, to start from the date of his arrest on August 10, 2019. While delivering her verdict, the judge said the court had taken into consideration the mitigating factors put forth, including Yu's background and his cooperation during the investigation and the victim's family's impact statement. At the same time, the court has to emphasize the importance of public interest in such a case and met out a deterrent sentence that will serve as a lesson to the public because it started as a road rage case being driven by anger and dissatisfaction and aggravated by the use of prohibited substances only invites bad consequences. The court also weighed the impact statement from the victim's family, and this is indeed a great tragedy that has befallen and impacted all parties, either directly or indirectly. Syed Muhammad, who was 29 years old at the time of the incident, died while being treated at Nilai Medical Center on the same day of the accident. As Nightline draws to a close this time around, let's take a look at the Festival of Lights on display at the National Museum of Bosnia-Herzegovina in Sarajevo, paying tribute to the natural splendor found within the museum's grounds. With that, I'm Sabrina Zainal. Thank you for tuning in and stay safe, Malaysia.